Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Show, Scotland's #1 politics chat, back from our extended summer break. We are going to have a great night tonight, as we do most Wednesdays at 7 p.m. So, thank you for being with us tonight. My name is Mark Devlin, and I'm here tonight with my hosts Mark Zegveldt and Mary Devlin.
Hello, good evening, everyone. It's nice to be back.
Great. And how have you been doing, Mark?
Good, thanks. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, great. Been a lovely day here, so been in the garden.
Well, I see. And Mary, how have you been?
I'm good. Yes, it's been a good summer, but it's nice to be back.
Right. So, what are you going to be talking about tonight, Mark?
I'm going to talk about Police Scotland sending officers to Northern Ireland, especially when we're short.
Okay, and what are you going to be talking about, Mary?
Well, I'm going to be talking about Scotland's annual accounts, the GERS figures.
Okay, and we're all going to be talking about cage fight between Elon Musk and Humza Yousaf, although maybe cage fight isn't the right expression, more like a giant squashing a bug, perhaps. Okay, now, if you are watching and you... What's that?
And we have Zummer of the Week.
All right, okay, so I'll pick up there. Say again, Mary.
And we have Zummer of the Week.
Right, very good. So we'll be back in a second with all of that and much more. See you soon. Find the thing. Right, hi there. Welcome back to Majority Show, Scotland's #1 politics and chat. We are here tonight on a beautiful summer evening to advocate for a better Scotland free of the toxic nationalism that is strangling Scotland's potential. Here tonight with Mark Zegveldt and Mary. And Mark, I saw that you the other day that you were on the Dan Wootton show.
Yes, I was.
And what was that all about?
Well, they were talking about freedom of speech, and due to what happened with me over a week ago now, where someone had made a complaint to the police about one of my spaces, where we were talking about where we at civil war in the UK, and somebody made a complaint about incitement of violence, and the police interviewed me under a voluntary interview, and they found nothing, of course.
Well, of course, they would find nothing, because we are not the type of people who would be inciting any kind of violence at all. I think this is one of the issues that we have coming up on shows like ours. Any kind of media is going to be this issue of people who make vexatious complaints against what we say. Sometimes you might say something's ambiguous or so on, and we may think it's one thing, or maybe other people think it's another thing. And we have to be quite careful. But, people know from our history that we're not the type of people that are getting involved in that kind of nonsense. Quite happy to rant on about things.
Excessive ranting, yes.
Anyway. All right. Okay. Well, I'm glad that was resolved anyway. But did you feel it had a bit of a chilling effect on you?
Yes and no. Yes, it was quite shocking and unexpected. But I'm the kind of character that thinks, well, I want my voice heard. But then that's one reason I went on Dan Wootton's show, is to have a voice and to say to others, look, carry on. We do have freedom of speech. That is being attacked. It's been attacked by the UK government as well as the hate crime bill in Scotland. We're seeing the UK government, Labour, doing it now, and we are being attacked. I think social media is being attacked, and and any kind of show that's like yourself, this show. So yeah, I do think more people that speak out about this, the better, because if we do lose freedom of speech, and they do attack us on social media and try and get people shut down, we won't get it back. So I think it's that important, and it's that bigger an issue for me.
Yeah, well said, Mark. I mean, we've always been, as we ran media since we were kids, almost then since our 20s, we've always been very, of course, not interested, advocates for free speech. And, we have to have the right to be able to offend people. There's no right not to be not offended, as it were. So I feel the hate crime certainly laws are a disgrace. Let's just put it that way, and they really shouldn't be there at all. But we can come to that. We'll have a discussion about that perhaps another day. I mean, we already discussed it in the hate crimes bill. Right. Okay. Also, I want to say a big thank you to our other co-host, David Griffiths, who is once again 21 and is having a great time, I think, somewhere in Ayrshire, no doubt propping up a bar with his friends.
Supporting
Cheers.
the local economy.
Yeah, well, that's it. So, yes.
Happy
indeed.
birthday, David.
Good. It always seems
Happy birthday, David.
It always seems to have a good day for it.
That's true. It's always sunny.
Yeah, it's always sunny on David's birthday. Anyway, we'll see David, no doubt, in a few weeks. I don't know if he's coming back next week or not. In the meantime, we have the great Mark Z. He's here to
I'm not sure how great, but yeah.
Well, I think
here.
it's very. Well, no, look, you've been on Dan Wood now. What can we say? We're
star.
Yes, exactly. Right. As always, a huge thanks to UK Union Voice and United Against Separation Facebook pages, who where many of you are watching from tonight.
And remember, sharing is caring. The number one thing you can do is like this show on YouTube. Even if you don't subscribe, drop a like. And if you can subscribe, please do so. Increase our reach at the click of a button. And
Yes.
as usual, tonight I'll be managing the relentless flow of comments. So please keep them short and snappy, and I'll try to put as many up on screen as I can.
Right, and please try not to incite any riots in the comments either. That could cause us a wee bit of trouble. All right. Right. Want to make something a little bit clear now that the election is over. Majority's aim, as you know, is how do we get out of this mess? Well, only by discussion, actually. I suppose active discussion and advocating your case and pushing and doing whatever we can to do it.
Peaceful democracy.
That's how democracy should work, certainly. Anyway, making some clear is that the majority's aim is to stop toxic nationalism in Scotland. And while many of our followers are Conservatives and many are not, many of you voted Labour or even Conservative as a tactical vote in the last election, which helped destroy the SNP. And we've got to remember that was the main aim. And there are some people, the people who voted Labour or, the tactically voted Labour or, did a bad thing. But the key was to get rid of the SNP. But that's all. That work isn't finished. We may have to do the same thing again in 2026, make sure, put the final boot down on the SNP party. But what I wanted to say was that this isn't a show for commenting on UK issues or for commenting about how bad the Labour government is. This is a show about Scottish politics. And if that happens, if Labour happens to do something, or the Tories, it doesn't really matter who it is, we will criticise. We're equal opportunity critics in that case. So we will do that and we'll continue to do so to appease nationalism. That's our thing. So I don't know why I need to say that, but just maybe some people are like, right, well, the Labour's doing terrible, we need to be talking about them or something, that type of thing. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily our issue. So let's actually talk about the issues of the week. First of all, Humza Musk versus Elon Yousaf. No, that's not the right one at all. It's Elon Musk versus Humza Yousaf, a war of words between these two giants.
No.
Has entered a new phase, as Humza says he will sue the world's richest man for something or other. It's actually not very clear what he's going to sue him for. So let me take you back to the days of, a long time ago now actually, 10th of June 2020, when the Scottish Parliament held a debate on showing solidarity with anti-racism demonstrators who were supporting George Floyd's murder. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, okay, that's bad enough. But Humza decided to get up and make this infamous speech.
White. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white. The Solicitor General, white. The Chief Constable, white. Every Deputy Chief Constable, white. Every assistant chief constable, white. The head of the Law Society, white. The head of the Faculty of Advocates, white. Every prison governor, white. And not just justice. The chief medical officer, white. The chief nursing officer, white. The chief veterinary officer, white. The chief social work advisor, white. Almost every trade union in this country headed by people who are white. In the Scottish Government, every Director General is white. Every chair of every public body is white.
Wow, it's worse actually. I haven't seen that now. It's just actually worse seeing it again. Of course, he was talking about him being the only white person.
The only brown person.
Oh no, yes, that's right. Actually, not the only white person in the room. The only brown person in the room, as he put it.
Who happened to become the First Minister of Scotland?
Oh, that's racism, Mary. He shouldn't have been allowed to be the First Minister if he was if Scotland was racist. That surely is the point. Anyway, the clip was widely promoted around the world, so much so that Elon Musk took some time out of his busy schedule, sending rockets to Mars and making an entirely new class of motor vehicles, to comment on it, calling Humza a blatant racist. I've got that somewhere or other. Anyway, Mark. Where is that? Oh, here we go. Mark, what do you think that was racism?
No, not at all. I think Elon Musk is just telling the truth and saying it as it is. And he's quite right to do that. He's whether anyone agrees with him, it makes no difference. He's entitled to an opinion, and that's his opinion. And I think most of Scotland actually agree with him. It was a shocking speech he made, and I think Humza is just. I think he's trying to get on the international stage, so he picks a fight with Elon because of richest man in the world, known throughout the world, and he wants to play off that because he's irrelevant now. He's not in any kind of position. He's irrelevant, so he's trying to become relevant by taking on Elon Musk. And I don't know who suggested he do that because he's been made to look pretty foolish over Twitter and over social media, and it has gone viral. How I don't know how to put it. How daft he's looked, how stupid he's been made to look by Elon, and I think I think people have looked and thought, well, yeah, that was racist. We're a 96% white country. What does he expect? The percentages are going to say that most of the people in higher positions are going to be white. But the guy was First Minister, supposedly the top job in Scotland. If we were racist, he wouldn't have got that position. He wouldn't have been anywhere near it.
You think about even in statistical terms, 96%, right?
91.8%.
Oh, 91. So, okay.
92 almost.
Right, so let's say 92%. So out of 100 people, you could expect that possibly 8 were, non-whites, right? So, I mean, that's still. I mean, he only mentioned certain names there. There's plenty of other people in those positions. The thing that gets to me a little bit is the selectivity of it all. He doesn't account for all the other successful foreigners. It's just like Scotland's racist because the people I meet are all white. Instead of if you watch a football match or go to a concert or other areas, then there's plenty of people of whatever colours and races and nationalities there. I mean, just for example, Emily Sandé, famous singer, or what about the Japanese people who play for football clubs and so on. I mean, we have this thing. It's not like. This he's trying to make this idea that Scotland is a racist country, or is institutional.
He's fighting it. He's fighting the big cause. He's the one that's leading the Scotland out of this racism country that we are and bringing us up and making us multicultural. He's the one that's doing it. Where, in my opinion, as well, as First Minister, when you're in a position of power like he was. And he's making that speech. The people in them positions, because he mentioned a lot of big positions, they must sit back and think, hold on a minute, I'm here because I've worked damned hard to get to where I've got and be in the position that I'm in, it's nothing to do with me being white. It's because I'm the best person for the job. And I think it was quite offensive to them people in all the positions he named. I think it was highly offensive to them because I've no doubt they've worked hard to get to where they've got to, and they were picked.
Oh yes, okay. No, I haven't actually really thought about that too much. I mean, that's the thing. It's like you're only in there because you're white, and that's that's the implication of it. And I think that you talk about.
Well, I guess that there's an implication
ahead,
that people of other colours, people non-white, being brown or whatever, that they're not being allowed in, that they're somehow being passed over for white people.
Yeah, and I mean, at the time, I think he was, what was he, Health Secretary, Justice Secretary at that time? I mean, he was there already. And we've got Anna Sarwar, who's leader of the Labour Party in Scotland, and many other. I mean, there's many other politicians, particularly as well. So it's so selective, isn't it? It's like it's not. I mean, if you count I think it's 96% as well. I do think it's 92%.
Yeah, 96%.
I mean, so that means 4 people out of 100. So even if you look at the makeup of the Scottish Parliament, it's in line with that, maybe even more, more so. Anyway, let's go back to Musk. What have we got here? Right. So anyway, after Musk called him out. Now, I mean, you can imagine Elon Musk. He doesn't know anything about Scottish politics. He's just taking it at face value. He's like, "What's this?" And remember, he comes as well from apartheid, South Africa. Right at the time, so he knows a bit about what racism is. To say not necessarily against him in that case, but he's been involved in racist dispute for a long time. So anyway, last week it blew up again because Humza was interviewed at the Edinburgh Fringe. Now, why anyone would want to pay to go and see Humza Yousaf being interviewed, I don't know. It's a bit like paying to go and see that Australian breakdancer. Humza Yousaf is like the political equivalent of that lady writhing around the floor and everyone laughing at her.
By all accounts, not many people turned up. There was more press in the front seats than there was behind it, the paying seats. So I don't think there was too many there.
Well, I know. Why would you go there? It's like, it's a beautiful night. Let's go and see Humza Yousaf
and pay for
money.
The privilege.
I mean, come on.
I could be in the pub drinking a pint. No, I'll go and see Humza Yousaf.
For God's sake. Anyway, at the event, he was asked about Elon Musk, and what did he say? He said that he's kind of up the ante a bit here. He said that Elon Musk was one of the most dangerous men on the planet. And he's not accountable to anybody. He has vast wealth at his fingertips and disposal, and he uses it for some of the most wicked evil I've seen. Well, presumably Humza has forgotten about his Palestinian pals who murdered over 1,000 Israelis on October 7th. That is actually evil. And that's the
wicked
people
evil.
He sent money to, the Scottish taxpayers' money to, and is under investigation for at the moment. That is actual evil. Saying hurty words and your opinion on the internet, however big it is not necessarily evil, especially if you have already talked in racist terms. Anyway, it's a description. Mark.
You think the bit, though, when he talked about he's got endless disposable income, that's the bit that usually puts you off suing a person.
Yeah, well, Mark Twain says you should never pick a fight with anyone who buys ink by the barrel. And this is, update it 100 years, 150 years, whatever. Anyone who buys electrons by the barrel, I don't know, whatever. I mean, basically, he has control of the thing. And but Mark, do you think? I don't know. Do you think Elon Musk is evil?
No. Whatever you think of him, people like him, some people don't. But to call him evil when we have people like Putin invading Ukraine,
exactly.
It's just, and you've got terrorists all around the world. The man is a businessman. He's the wealthiest man in the world. He set up £1 billion, companies, and
many of them.
Is that evil because he's got endless wealth? Is that evil? It's a lefty look at things again, that people with wealth are suddenly bad people. No, they're wealthy and look at the number of people he actually employs. that he puts into a job and that. So to call him evil again, I want to be mentioned by Elon Musk, so I have to say something so controversial he'll pay attention
No,
to
that
it.
seems to be the part of it. There's quite a lot of that victimhood going on. We won't mention a particular names, but perhaps regular viewers will know of whom we speak. People who claim to be victims online and then send out, and when you criticise them back, then they say, "Oh, I'm a victim. Why are you attacking me?" And then they send all their followers against you. So stuff like that. Just
Yes, we
these
can name
brazen
some.
attempts to gain attention. I think they might have something in that, Mark. To be honest, I think Elon Musk has done everyone a favour by buying Twitter and exposing the deep tentacles of particularly the US government into social media. Perhaps most people here don't know much about that, but it's an ongoing scandal where the US security services and all the different agencies had their fingers in the pie and were manipulating the conversations and so on. Now he's stopped that. Now, perhaps the side effect of that is that you also hear his voice as well. But he might have a big voice, but he is one of. He's still giving voice to hundreds of millions of other people. Which is a thing that Humza doesn't really want to do. He doesn't really like free speech very much, does he, Mark? You've hate crime bill, shocking, actually, idea that we can control speech. And hate speech is, of course, defined as a complete transfer of power to the government. The government decides what hate speech is, and then will prosecute you according to that. And perhaps that could maybe lead into this idea of two-tier policing, where certain comments, for example, saying, the Palestine should be free from the river to the sea, which to my mind is a genocidal statement against Israelis and Jews, it just gets let off. Whereas other comments that are not protected are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, it's. I think it's quite. What we're seeing is quite an attack on freedom of speech. I do think what we're seeing in Scotland is going with the hate bill. We are going to see in Westminster. I think when they come back to Parliament, there will be a hate bill introduced similar to Scotland's. I think they're going to go after social media. By the sounds of Starmer, that they are going to go after social media. I think they're going to put legislation in which will curtail freedom of speech. I just think it's really serious topic that I think does need to be challenged. I hope that people will challenge any kind of legislation on freedom of speech.
Well, we tried to challenge it here, though, in Scotland. Didn't go very well, really. All kinds of people were against it. The church, the police, and so on. A lot of civil society was against it. They still managed to push it through. And, you're seeing that to some extent, the police visiting your door is an example of that. Now, as I mentioned a minute, but Mary and I lived in the States for a long while. And, you have the First Amendment. It's like, not going to get the government against me. It's a major issue if the police start. And it's quite interesting if you live there and you see how the freedom of speech goes through so much levels of society there. Simple things like if you want to put, for example, here, you can't have number plates that are offensive, right? It's a simple thing. But in America, it doesn't matter because the government can't abridge your speech. So if you want a number plate that says something, whatever, you can
I've
get
actually,
it. Just for example, that type of thing.
I've actually seen the difference in on Spaces now, where we're seeing Americans who are coming up and saying we're shocked at what's happening in the UK. We don't have that kind of thing, and if you want to say something, tell us, and we can get that message out there because we can't.
Yeah, I think what they'll do is they'll subvert that, though, and the governments will subvert that because you often think about that. For example, during the Alex Salmond trial, you're like, okay, well, why don't we just publish the names of the the complainants overseas, but they would track you down and find out that you did it. I mean, it takes a bit of effort to do that type of thing, but it's the point. The problem is that they want to control, so they're going to use whatever they can to control. Right, we're going to come back in a minute, and we're going to continue this discussion about Elon Musk and see where we get to on it. So we'll see you in a second. Really just time to take a breath, I suppose. All right, okay. Anyway, we were a hate crime bill. Yeah, okay. Musk hit back saying Humza was super racist. Like,
Not just super racist, but super,
that was
super.
a blatant racist one. There's a super racist. Oh, no, that's coming up in a minute. Yeah, this one's super racist. There, oops, I lost my page. Super racist. I just not, yeah, exactly as Mary says, not just a wee bit racist. It would be good if you actually learned some Scottish slang, to add on to it. And then he added on, Scotland gave him everything, yet he loathes white people. Oh, he added that on. That's a bit of a burn. And, okay, so whether or not Humza Yousaf hates white people, I think it can be is something for debate. But the thing that interested me was that Scotland gave him everything part of it, because it's 100% true that Humza Yousaf and his family hate the UK because they want to break the UK up. They spent their whole entire adult lives trying to do so and to break up the country and divide Scots. And this starts with Humza's father, who came to the UK in 1964 with his parents. And he repaid the welcome and all the opportunities the UK gave him by joining the SNP and agitating to break up the UK. His son then continued this family tradition. Humza's father said in April 2023, "All I thought about was getting independence. I felt we were not getting our fair share from the English government." I mean, for God's sake, and that we were considered to be second-class citizens rather than proper citizens of the United Kingdom. Again, so that was the reason I was motivated to join the English government. I mean, really, it's like, if you come to this country, at least learn how the country works. It's the UK government. And that's the thing. And no said Scot is a second-class citizen in this UK of ours. As many as I said. Now, the thing is, I've been an immigrant. Mary has as well. We were away for 26 years. We lived in Japan for 18 years. We lived in America for 8 years. And the idea that we would go to those countries and then advocate to break them up is something that wouldn't even go into our mind. We never even considered that, never even thought, never heard of anyone doing such a thing. And
it's just not allowed. I mean, they ban it outright. So
it's just not even banned. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. And basically, if we had said to Americans, "Yeah, we want to break up America," we'd be booted out straight away. I mean, basically, but ungrateful scumbags, it says here in capital letters, like Humza's father, think that they can come to the UK and do just that. These people live in a self-righteous bubble where they think independence for Scotland is some kind of noble cause against the bad English government. So they make up their own argument. Oh, the English government is bad, so I'll advocate for this, when the whole thing is just based on nonsense. Anyway, and the reason I think they can succeed to some extent is because ordinary people are just too polite. Ordinary people are just too polite. I had this discussion about a year ago with this guy, Allard, Christian Allard. I think he's a councillor maybe in where's that place? In Edinburgh. And I was saying to him, have you never actually walked out your door? Walk out your door and say to the first 10 people, I've lived here as a Frenchman for 20 years and I want to break up your country, and see what reaction you've got. Bubble. That's the thing. And all these nationalists around them, oh, yes, this is great. You're really Scottish now, aren't you? It's nonsense. Anyway, we've been immigrants, and I think it's really disgraceful behaviour. It's despicable. And I think that we have been too polite, and the government has been too polite to people like Humza's father, and you've just been too polite. And they said, and I think you just to say we need to be called out for it. I mean, how dare you come to our country and try and break it? I just think it's outrageous. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely. There's a word. It's disrespectful. It's completely disrespectful to the country you go to. I would never, ever, ever even consider if I ever went and lived abroad. You follow their rules, you follow their laws, you follow their culture, and if you don't, then don't live there. It's as simple as that. We've been pandering far too long in this country. when immigrants come here to assimilate them and to their cultures, instead of saying, well, if you come to this country, you have to fit into our cultures, not yours.
It shouldn't be too much to ask and say, at least don't break up our country.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
That's the. It's so obvious.
Well, it causes unrest. That's the, it's not going to break up the country, but it just causes divisiveness.
Yeah.
Quite insidious. It's like you come and then you start dividing people.
You have to apply, don't you? You have to apply to the UK government to come and live here and work here and settle here. You're not applying to the Scottish government to come here and work.
Exactly.
So so you abide by the UK government laws, and you fit into that, and you don't break it up. You don't challenge it. But you don't come in and say, right, I'm going to settle in your country, but I'm going to challenge you because I want your country broken up. You don't do that. And any country would take a government, I think, would say, well, on you go. We're going to deport you because that is stirring up hatred. It's stirring up problems. It's stirring up
division,
all sorts of issues, division, and. No country. I don't think there's any country that would allow that. That would accept that.
No, I don't think. I think especially if you go to the States and did that, people would be like, I don't know, maybe possibly violence against you in that case. I mean, it's so.
We have to pledge.
Why are you here? Why are you here? If that's the point, if you want to break up the country, it's just why? And I think this is the thing to some extent. We have to say. I mean, perhaps, in France and America we are one country, right? We are unified. It's in the constitutions or whatever.
Well, we're unified too. We're called the United Kingdom.
I know, but it's not like, well, that's the thing. It's not
like
in
if you went to Texas. If you went to Texas and said, well, we want to
secede from the Union. Yeah.
To leave America. It's just the same. But you have to pledge allegiance to America, don't you? So
yes,
you can't. You can't actively try and break up that country because you've already pledged allegiance. Yeah. Maybe it's time we brought that in.
Well, I don't know if it's. I mean, it shouldn't actually be necessary. That's the point.
School kids do it there every day, every morning.
Yeah, what kind of people would actually do that? Go to a country and need to be reminded of that. That's kind of my point. Anyway, back to Humza. He says, Humza, he continues. He goes, Elon Musk is a dangerous race baiter who must be held to account for his actions. I can't think what upsets him so much about a brown Muslim progressive politician, but his billions won't stop me calling out his support for the far right. A bit of an extension, projection perhaps.
Yep.
In that case, Musk then responded by saying Humza was obviously super racist against white people. I dare that scumbag to sue me.
Yes.
Go ahead, make my day. And then he said something quite intriguing. He said, legal discovery will show that however big a racist he's been in public communications, he is vastly worse in private communications.
Ooh.
Which led to a big discussion about whether Musk can see everyone's private messages.
If he wants to.
Which I'm sure he can.
He owns the platform.
Yes, he can. I'm not sure if it's encrypted or not. I didn't actually look into the detail of that. But wouldn't it be fun if he did it just for laughs? Because even if he did do it, then who's going to sue him? He's going to say, right, what are you going to do then? How much is that going to cost me?
I think it was a threat. I think it was a threat to Humza to say,
of course it is.
You carry this on. I've got information that shows privately as well as publicly that you are a racist and what you've done. So if you carry this on, trust me, this will be made public. And if you sue me, it will be part of the lawsuit. It will be
the discovery.
In discovery.
Yeah. Well, it's not even that. You can pay anyone to do anything, right? I mean, some people might say that's too much power, right? But you could say to anyone, "I'll give you £1 million for any information you've got on him." I mean, or whatever, 10 million, doesn't matter.
Well, right? Elon could throw $1 billion at this if he wanted to.
The issue is he would, even if say this escalated and this did go further, Humza would never get to court because he'd be bankrupt. Elon's got the best lawyers in the world. He's got limited now amount of resources. He would bankrupt Humza before it got anywhere
Well, it's not
near.
even. I mean,
Airport,
it's just
yeah.
he's got. America's an incredibly litigious society. You have to have a lawyer to do practically anything, and so he spends probably half his day with lawyers anyway. Now, talking of lawyers, to push his case, Humza enlisted the help of Amir Anwar,
Whoa.
a Glasgow lawyer who holds the Olympic record for ambulance chasing. Anwar, who has never met a camera that he doesn't like, said Musk has effectively painted a target on Humza Yousaf's back with his completely unacceptable, untrue, and inflammatory comments.
A target for what?
Yeah,
I mean, for who?
it's like I can imagine a big target in the back saying, "Avoid this racist."
Yeah.
But is it all, Mark? You kind of hinted at this earlier on. We'll finish off with this. Is it all a publicity stunt?
I think it's I don't think. Yeah, it is a publicity stunt, but I think it's more than that. I think it's Humza trying to get onto the international stage, and I think he's trying to do what Sturgeon tried to do was, I want a job in the EU or UN or any kind of that. So if I take on Elon and I, win or the battle of words, if I can keep up with Elon with the battle of words, if I can take him on, challenge him on Twitter, it'll make me, give me more of a platform. It'll make me better known within the EU and that. And I think that's what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In my view, I think that's what he's after. But I think he's been made to look a fool. It's gone the opposite. He's been made. Elon's absolutely owned him, hasn't it? He's owned him.
Yes.
He's completely
Elon has been doing. He's been doing this for a long time. He does it all day, every day. Yes. And Humza is an utter, I would say amateur, but that's actually
it's Premier League and non-league.
That's too high for Humza Yousaf to even call him an amateur.
It's Premier League against non-league.
He's way out of his depth.
Yeah, it's like Man City, taking on some village football team somewhere.
It's certainly in the battle of the wits. Certainly, Humza Yousaf is not going to lose in that case. Okay, right, we've done enough with that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been good to be back anyway to discuss these issues with you all on a Wednesday evening. We have quite a good number of people in so far, so that's great. Thank you all for joining us.
Someone says Elon's like a cat with a moose. I would say he's more like a lion with a moose.
Well, we should teach him. We should send him some Scottish slang that we can use when he's fighting back. Anyway, all right. It takes a lot of work to organise this show, our social media feeds and articles, but we wouldn't be able to do all that without the support of our fantastic and amazing donors. That's
all
you,
two of them
watching out there. Now, it would be great if we got more. This is what I'm trying to say. Say we need more. If you do like this show, get some value out of it. Think, oh, this is a great. I have to watch these guys. They're great. They're the only ones that are talking about this type of stuff, which is true. And so, if you can please consider a monthly or one-time donation. Now, you can donate using the what's that thing called? Super Thanks, Super Chat on YouTube, which is a kind of instant thing. Or you can go to our website where there's a button on the right-hand side of every page where you can click and make a one-time or monthly donation. Anything helps. Small, big, large. Anything pretty much helps keep the lights on and gets ready for our fight going forward towards 2026, which is not very far away, in fact, and there's a lot to do. Right, Mary, I think I read your part as well there. Anyway, so we'll take a break, another short break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Scottish Tory leadership contest. So, see you in a second. Oops, if you press the button. Okay. Right, okay, the other day Murdo Fraser announced he was going to stand for leadership of the Scottish Conservative and Unionist Party. And to prove how much of a unionist he was, he said that if the party should form a commission to review its links with the UK party. This comes after Murdo initiated weeks of unnecessary and divisive discussion across multiple newspapers and social media about whether the Scottish Tories should break away from the UK party. This kind of annoyed me to some extent, so much that whenever this issue popped up, I made a list of 14 reasons why separating the Scottish Tory party from the UK party is a bad idea, which I will not go into right now.
But where can we read them, Mark?
Yes, you can read them on social media somewhere or other. Yes, just look through our feeds, but I'll repost them again.
Is it not on the majority site?
That's a good point. We should put them
It should be on the majority site, yeah.
But you can find them in the feeds. But there are two main reasons. One, so-called Tories like Murdo don't want to be called Tories because nationalists use it against them. That's the first one. This is the infamous branch office slur that Scottish Tories and Labour are just branch offices of the UK party. So Murdo's reaction to this is, oh, well, we must split up and do exactly what nationalists want. That's what we'll do. They're calling us back. They're saying we're a branch office, so why don't we split up and become an actual branch office? Anyway, correct answer is to say, let's not run away from these hurtful words, but to say, so what? We live in the UK, we are full part of the UK party and advise the UK party on Scottish issues and participate in decisions that affect all citizens of the UK, unlike nationalists who only make decisions based on one part of the UK. This is not difficult. As Elon Musk might say, it's not rocket science. And do you like that?
And he knows rocket science.
Okay. And the other one is that they think they're too good to be associated with those nasty right-wing English Tories. I don't know which ones they're talking about because they're the reason they get slaughtering at the election because they weren't nasty right-wing Tories at all, perhaps, according to that definition. Although that's exactly what nationalists say. Nationalists say we want to separate because we don't want to be part of the Tories. Now, if the Scottish Tories don't want to be part of the Tory party, then what hope have you got? Absolute insanity. So, Mark.
Yeah, I actually on Monday night interviewed Murdo on my YouTube channel, and that's one question I did ask him about his comments about changing the name or splitting up from Westminster, and he clarified what he actually said, and he said, I did say that quite a few years ago, but he said, I have now changed my mind on that. He said, and I do want to clarify that. He said, I don't believe that now. He said, I think that was
but
what I thought.
He still wants this idea of this commission, right? A commission to discuss that. What he's done is instead of pushing it as part of this leadership campaign, what he's done is he said, okay, if I become leader, we'll do it. We'll make a commission that will discuss this and it'll be put to the members. But, finger on the scale. That's what's going to happen.
He did clarify that as well, he said, because it wouldn't be up to me if that happened. It would be up to
wasn't my
the
fault.
Tory. It would be put to a vote and it would be up to the Tory members to decide that.
Why even bother? This is the thing. It's like you're a UK party. You're supposed to stand for UK stuff. Why are you even talking about this? It's absolutely ridiculous. In his piece in the Scotsman, he said, where was it? I've got here, Murdo. He went on to say the Tory leaders have let the party down. I will be different to Boris Johnson and Douglas Ross. Well, he was one of the people who basically didn't allow Boris Johnson to come to Scotland and ignored the 1 million Scots who voted for Brexit and basically appeased almost every aspect of Scottish nationalism we could find along the way. So it just makes me wonder, why he's wanting to lead a party he didn't like the past leaders of.
You'll like one thing he said, Mark.
Right,
you might enjoy one thing he said. He said we have concentrated far too much on the independence question, and we need to stop talking about that because we've decided that, and it's not relevant for Scotland in today because all the polls suggest that we don't want independence. People are going off the SNP. It's way down the list of priorities. So he wants to talk about the proper policies like education, housing, and so on. So you might like that bit.
Well, the thing is, we told them all that many years ago, 3 years ago,
Yeah.
before even Douglas Ross. Well, just as soon as Douglas Ross came, we said, "Stop talking about independence all the time. It just doesn't make any sense. So independence is not going to happen anyway. You had a referendum. You say we had a referendum. That's it. They were scared to talk like that, and perhaps to some extent there was the nationalism was in the rise, and perhaps there could be reasonably some fear. But sometimes you need some leadership, and that's what the thing's about: leadership, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've got 3 suggestions about what the next Scottish Tory leader should do. One, as you say, stop talking about independence.
Because nobody else is.
Nobody else is. Although Andrew Bow was on, Andrew Bow MP was said on the newspaper the other day, or some interview, said there could be a second referendum. And you're like, why? Why are you bringing this up now? It's not just that nationalism is on the decline. The whole point is, can they not get it into their heads that a minority of UK citizens in one part of the country, whether in Scotland or Cornwall, don't get to break up the entire country? It's not that complicated. I mean, really, that should be the straightforward part. Now, the second thing they should do, and this is the thing we haven't seen at all is they should talk to grassroots Conservative voters. And I don't mean the Tory party members. I mean the many people out there who are small c Conservatives and what they want. And a lot of them are our followers. And they're like, okay, well, we don't want more Holyrood powers. We want it rolled back, if anything. We want harmonised taxation, cut the taxation back to normal levels. Now, I saw today Murdo was saying, okay, we're going to have lower taxation than the rest of the UK. You're like, come on. Just the same.
That's not conservative.
And of course they can talk about better services. And most of all, I think this is the thing, that if you're a Tory, whether you're Labour or not, or whatever party you're in, at least you should embrace what you stand for. I think that what voters want is authenticity, right? They want to say, does this person believe this, or are they just working against polls, like you kind of mentioned there? The Murdo was making these decisions based on polling. Oh, polling says that Scottish independence isn't going to happen. It's like that. So we'll make a decision based on that? I don't think so. Nationalists and Labour, for all their faults or whatever it is, they believe in what they're doing. You say, and some of them say, I'm proud to be a nationalist, right? We don't get that feeling from any Tory, really from any Tory candidate. And if you're ashamed of your ideas, you're not prepared to stand up for them, not prepared to stand up for your leaders, then really, why are you even in the party? That's what I think. It's like, if you're in a party, you stand up for the people. That's it. And don't drag your own party down chasing after voters you don't want. So I think so. You can guess from all this that I'm not really a Murdo fan, and part of that,
No.
and part of that is because, I mean, he may be a very nice guy and all that, so on. But whatever, this is, I'm talking just politics. But the other things, don't block us on X or Twitter if you want to try and do a leadership campaign. This is basic stuff. Appeal to us and people like us, and be open and try and get votes for you and get us on your good side. I'm not saying that we've got a lot of power, but we have a wee bit, something to say.
We influence a couple of people at least.
Right, yeah, exactly. Alan, abolish Holyrood, indeed. Well, we'll come back to that as we go forward.
On another show.
I mean, do you think, Mark, we're going to run a wee bit long, Mary, so do you think, Mark, that we are, that it's even important, this Scottish Tory leadership campaign?
Yeah, I actually do think it's important, because we need the right leader, whoever that is. We need the right leader in the Conservatives, because Labour have far too much in common with the SNP. We need a proper opposition, and I think who are gonna challenge the SNP and challenge Labour on all sorts of issues. Like they did with the gender issues and the hate crime bill and that, because Labour voted for it. So we do need a proper opposition, and I think the Conservatives, if they get the right person, whoever that is, I'm going to keep my view to myself on who I think it is, or who I think it should be, but whoever it is, whoever wins, I think they need to start engaging with the general public. And I'll say one thing. Murdo came up and said, would you interview me on your show? because I'm campaigning, and I said yes. And I got a few tweets afterwards from people saying, "Well, are you going to interview the other candidates?" And I answered, "I'll interview all of them if they want to, but Murdo's the only one that's come forward to be interviewed. None of the others have." So I'll give him some credit for
and
that.
so I'll say that as well. I mean, if you want to, I don't know if you're watching, but if you want to come on the show and have 10 minutes chatting with us, Murdo, you're welcome to do, as is any candidate as well. We will be reaching out to some of them to do that. We're not going to discuss the WhatsApp leak today with Stephen Kerr. Going to move on. Mark's going to talk a little bit about the police officers going to Northern Ireland. So we'll be back in a second. That's again if I press the button. Got to remember how to do this. Okay, I'm getting
I was just saying that
some criticism there from
Mark needs a big giant button so he knows where it is all the time.
Well, I'm using the magic mouse. Okay, Mark, let's
Right.
tell us about this story. I don't know much about it, actually.
Yeah, Northern Ireland Justice Minister Naomi Long asked for extra police officers from Police Scotland to go to Northern Ireland to help for about a week with the so-called far-right riots that they were calling. I've got a different view. But they asked if they would send some. And John Sweeney said to Police Scotland, yeah, we'll send some. We'll send 120. Well, it happened to be 80. Actually, 80 went, but they asked for 120. Now, John Sweeney then made hay on this on social media. He started saying, well, we're going to send officers to Northern Ireland because we aren't seeing any trouble in Scotland. We are different to England because we have different, we are better. We are basically
we're better people in Scotland.
Our more moral army over there.
We accept immigrants in Scotland, and we're better than England. Blah 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 blah. The normal garbage. But I looked at that and I thought, it is not that long ago, only April, that Police Scotland were coming out with a statement saying our frontline officers are worried because they're not getting the backing of Scottish government. They don't have the number of officers that they should have. They're losing officers. They're well down on the figures. I think they lost 260 in 1 year, just 1 year. And officers new officers are only coming in for between 4 and 6 years, and then they're off because they're not enjoying it. They're not don't like it.
But maybe if they're sent over to Northern Ireland, they
were
far-right protesters enjoy it a bit more.
I think it's a very stressful job, and
it's very stressful. A lot of paperwork as well.
And you're not getting the backing of the Scottish government. They were promised 1,000 officers. That didn't happen, and they were losing officers. They're down on 15 years. They've got the same number of officers now than they had 15 years ago. They're not getting extras.
No. When was the last time you actually saw a policeman? I don't know. You don't see that in our daily. We saw one come past us at 90 miles an hour in the motorway today. First time
to send 80 frontline officers to even for a week to Northern Ireland, and it's just for the publicity. That's all it's for. It must that's going to put extra pressure on Scotland. They're not coming out to certain crimes. They announced that we're not going to come out and look at certain crimes because we don't have the numbers.
Branch form.
Branch form. Yeah, they're still investigating that.
Everybody's on that.
But nobody's on that. It appears like nobody's.
It got lost in a drawer somewhere a long time ago.
It staggers me that they would actually allow this and say, well, yeah, I can have 80. And it's for propaganda purposes, but it puts pressure and it puts officers in danger, because if there's a major incident in Scotland, they're 80 frontline officers short. They're going to have to deal with that with the shortages they've got already. I think it's just, I thought it was quite shocking thing to do.
Sorry, Mark, did England or Wales, did they send police officers?
I think they approached Wales, and I don't think they did. but I'm not sure about England. I think England did send some as well, because Northern Ireland was a bit of a flashpoint at one stage. So, and I think they have their own issues, because they couldn't pay for it. They
Right.
couldn't pay. They have to pay for them officers, but they were saying that they were short of money, and they had to go to the UK government for extra funding to pay Scotland for these officers to go to Northern Ireland. So
I think it's also using that as from the articles. I'm reading this article here. It's just this one here. I mean, it seems pretty much that they are using it to say, "Oh yes, we're right on, and we're against all the racism and all this stuff." People have been asking why these riots have been happening in Scotland, and I think it's because people have far less exposure to immigrants coming in here, and in the main, immigrants are coming into England and into communities in England, and of course there's going to be some reaction to that. And if the government is not seen to be taking action, and unfortunately people are taking matters into their
we have had riots.
It's not really taking matters into their hands, because they're not actually achieving anything. But so the issue really is, what is the government actually going to do anything about this? Seems unlikely, perhaps.
Well, we get the John Sweeney and others coming out saying, well, we don't have riots in Scotland. Excuse me, we had riots 2 years ago. We had riots, and we had that incident where they all told people to hit the streets when the immigration vans came to Glasgow, and they flooded the streets. That could have led to a serious riot, and we have seen riots. So to say we never have riots in Scotland is just utter nonsense.
It's nonsense. It really is. I was going to just be a quick mention of this. It's not exactly related, but it's about lack of people being trained. I was at my dentist yesterday, and he said that he wasn't getting any interns because the Scottish government wasn't funding the places at universities. So what the universities were doing was making up all the places. We know this story. All the places are foreigners and English people, and when the courses are finished, they go away. So what's happening is the actual there's no Scottish young dentists coming up.
It's the same for doctors, Mark.
Yeah, and he said that normally that every place was filled. They took the interns, but there are 50 places unfilled for in different basically 50 places that should have been, that want interns and can't get them because there aren't enough. It's just this degradation of our services by the SNP and so on. We're going to come back. Good section there, Mark. We're going to come back. Mary's going to talk about GERS, not the football
Rangers
team, but the Scotland's annual accounts that is mostly disputed, that was loved in the past by nationalists, and now they don't want to hear anything about it. So we're back in a second with that.
Okay, so the latest annual GERS figures were released today. Now, GERS stands for the Government Expenditure and Revenue Scotland. So the GERS figures are the annual accounts of Scotland, basically. And the latest figures show that we have a £22.7 billion black hole in Scotland's coffers. That's an increase of nearly £5 billion, or 26% in 1 year.
Right.
So the deficit is now over 10% of GDP. Which is ridiculous. So these annual accounts, which are published by our SNP Scottish Government, for everyone who says they're not the real figures, it's the SNP actually publish them, show that Scots benefit by £2,417 per head in public spending, more than the UK average. Okay, that means that for every man, woman, child, baby, they get an extra £2,417 each, or a family of four in Scotland receives about £10,000 more than a family elsewhere in the UK that gets the UK average.
Well, they don't receive the money, but they receive it in service.
In services, in benefits and services of some kind or another, that amount more is spent on Scottish families.
We had an idea to make a kind of not an app, but an online calculator that would say how much would your town lose. I mean, think of that: £2,000 per person,
£2,500
per person multiplied by any normal town. It's probably a better calculation to say, all right, well, this would result in Kilmarnock, say, losing, I don't know, I can't work out,
50 million or something.
Yeah, £50 million. You're like, well, wait a minute. Our people go, oh, what's happened to the swimming pool? Oh, already. It's bad
they're
enough
gone
as it
already,
is,
Mark.
you know.
I saw a stat, and it said that since 2014, since the referendum, we've had 198 billion more extra spent on our public services
than the UK average.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I want to point out that this isn't actually a thing that's just for Scotland. Now, often Scottish nationalists will say, well, why don't they let us go then if we're such a drag on them? Right? But if you look at this chart here, which I'll put on in a second there, you see that it's London and the South East that subsidise the rest of England and Scotland and Northern Ireland and Wales as well. So it's everywhere is being subsidised. So basically the question then is, why doesn't London and the South East get rid of the rest?
Yeah.
Anyway, right. So that's the thing. It's like, no, the point is we're one country, and in the UK, some areas make more money than others and they support others. Nationalists, of course, say, all right, well, when we had oil, we were supporting the rest of the UK, and even then it was barely the case. But you should go, all right, okay, that's great. You're supporting your fellow man. This is what socialism is about. Aren't you socialists? Anyway,
that number, the £2,500 per person, is above the average of the UK. So even taking into account all those places that you've just shown, Scotland gets £2,500 per person more
because
than
that's
the average.
That one was based in GDP.
In the UK, okay? And that's why it's known as the union dividend, because it underlines the economic strength of the United Kingdom. Because by pooling and sharing resources all across the UK, we receive billions of pounds of extra money for vital public services like the NHS and for schools. That is, if the Scottish Parliament chooses to invest in those areas. But I think this huge deficit shows how much we need economic growth. The Scottish Government has to produce better results for people in Scotland. The deficit shows that obviously that we're spending a lot more than the money that's coming in. So Scottish Conservative leadership candidate, not Murdo, but Russell Findlay, said the figures confirm that the SNP's quest to break up the UK is finished for the foreseeable future.
Yes. Well,
he went on to say the Nationalists have no vision to create jobs, boost businesses or grow our economy. SNP spending is out of control as John Swinney and his colleagues squander taxpayers' money with reckless abandon. The Nationalists are only bailed out of the budget black hole they've created by the economic strength of the UK. In response, our SNP Finance Secretary, Shona Robinson, God help us, said, Finance Secretary, said the deficit was not a reflection on the finances or policies of the Scottish Government. It's a reflection of UK government choices. Now, I was completely bamboozled by this because it's utterly ridiculous and really very difficult to comprehend. How can the official accounts of Scotland not be a reflection on the finances and policies of Scotland? The income side is income generated in Scotland, and the expenses side is how the SNP government have chosen to spend the money. So where does the UK government come into this? And if this SNP Scottish government doesn't think it has any control over bringing in income or controlling how money is spent in Scotland through setting policies, what is the point of the Scottish government?
Yeah, well, that's a very good point.
Yeah, what does it do?
It doesn't do anything.
Well, see, this is a bit like me finding out at the end of the year, as often happens, that I've overspent by £22 billion, right?
Oh, God, not again.
Mark. And my neighbours give me the £22 billion to cover it as a gift, not as a loan, but as a gift, just like they do every year. And then instead of saying thanks and being grateful, I blame them for the £22 billion shortfall, saying I'm not in control of the money coming in and the money going out. Oh, and by the way, don't be surprised if you need to bail me out by much more next year. I mean, that's basically what that's exactly what they're saying.
It's actually more insidious, because I don't even think it's a discussion of neighbours as such. It's just there are other people in your society.
Yeah,
they're not necessarily even your neighbours.
Well, I'm saying in my particular case, it would be the people around me, right? It's like, I know I can spend whatever I like. I can mess up. I can waste money on stupid Scottish embassies and God knows whatever else, and sending Angus Robertson around the world and all that. I can do all of that because I'm just going to be given the money to cover it anyway.
And if that was the case, as you say, well, what is the point? If they're going to complain about it either way, which is an ongoing thing, and we talked about this in some of the tweets we had. I mean, when they're saying you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, you just want a grievance out of anything.
Yeah.
You're like, well, what's the point of you even being here? Because you're just going to complain about anything.
Listen, they don't have any control over how the money comes, or the amount of money coming in, or the amount of money going out, and the policies or whatever. It's all set by the UK government. Well, that's fine. I know how to save £1 billion a year. Get rid of the Scottish government, and then there's an extra billion that we could use.
I think we need that a little bit more aggressive. Mary, you need to be up there, and you should be the next leader of some party.
The leader of common sense. I'll start the common sense party.
Right. Very good, but we're not going to
know how to read a set of accounts
I'm not
too
sure if you're overspending $22 billion a year.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Mark.
That's really puts you in the right position after the Scottish economy, although perhaps it does.
Listen, it's just insane that they get away with this drivel and that so many people actually believe them.
That's true, very true. All right, very good. Things you can do to support the show. You can buy a T-shirt or a mug, and they're flying off the shelves. In fact, we had some requests today for more T-shirts. You can also subscribe to the show on YouTube. We need the subscriptions. That helps a lot. You can tell your friends about us, and you can do all of the above, which makes us extremely happy and fulfilled. Underlined exclamation mark. So coming up, it's the moment you've all been waiting for, the highlight of the week. It is Zummer of the Week.
Yay!
Right, okay, so let's see what we've got here. My Zoomer of the Week is the Scottish Parliament Information Centre.
That sounds exciting.
No, it's they put out a tweet today about the census results. Anyway, but here it is. Look, it's one of these fake Scottish things.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'll try and read it. The most recent census figures, I don't know how you say it, Keith, a growth in Scots and Gaelic skills. Well, that's why skills in English. Where most recent blog explores this growth and gives a comparison. Why is that in English? With the 2011 census. Why doesn't Scots have its own numbers?
That's what I'd like to know.
It shouldn't have its own number.
2011.
Yeah, exactly. 3. Oh, for God's sake! This is. I thought this was bad enough, actually. But when I was doing research for this, I thought, okay, that's a terrible tweet. I'll just talk this tweet. When you actually click on it and go to the site, they've got a whole page there of this nonsense. The Parliament is considered.
It's made up nonsense.
Present the Scots Leeds Bill that it is. I'm not even going to go any further with it. Of course, all this reminds us of Emma Harper, so I thought we'd play that clip.
Oh, poor Emma.
Yes, here we go.
Thanks to all that ta'en part in our inquiry, particularly the young folk that's experience helped to inform our recommendations. Our inquiry found that poverty is one of the 4 most issues causing poor health and well-being outcomes for bairns and young folk. Evidence shows the benefits of physical activity, but we are concerned only a wee drop of bairns and young folk is currently meeting the daily physical activity recommendations. We have called for a properly funded strategy to address this and to focus particularly on increasing physical activity for bairns and young folk.
Whatever. It's ridiculous nonsense. Stop doing this.
They should be compelled to have to speak a real language.
It's nonsense. It's part of an ongoing agenda by nationalists to try and make every Scot speak some kind of language. But putting 200 actual Scottish words alongside poorly spelled English words, and actually just English words, is not a language. I don't know how many this needs to be said. I mean, imagine you took 200 Japanese words and then said English words, and then said the rest, made up the rest, other thousands of words just as English words but spoken in a Japanese accent. Wouldn't be Japanese.
It's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing.
It really is embarrassing. Scots don't speak like this. They don't read like this. No matter how you try, you will not make Scots into an actual language. We reject it. We spoke English. We speak English. This is it. English. This is it. Coming out my mouth right now. English. And if you don't like that's what they don't like. They don't like it being called English.
That's why.
That's it. It's embarrassing guff. Please stop it now.
Well,
Zoomers.
they shouldn't be allowed to spend any money on it. No money should be spent on publishing any
No.
of this stuff.
No, it's absolutely crazy. Anyway, just
Okay, good Zummer, Mark.
thanks. This woman should be sectioned. Absolutely. All right, it's Mark Z is up next. Right, Mark, what have you got?
Right, my Zoom of the week is Kenny McCaskill, who has warned Scots all over Scotland that we are being ripped off. That bloody English again, and they're ripping us off.
What are they stealing now?
There's a water.
They're planning to build a multi-billion-pound energy highway for renewables to flow from Scotland to England and England to Scotland. But
so they're stealing our wind?
So Kenny thinks that it's only going one way. He thinks it's going from Scotland to England, and it doesn't go the other way. So they're robbing our renewables now. They take our oil, and now it's renewables. How dare they?
They're stealing our wind, Mark.
And he says
shocking.
And he says it's costing billions. But what he doesn't mention is that every infrastructure project that the UK do in Scotland benefits Scotland because the budget goes up. They get extra funding. So he doesn't mention any of this. He just says the renewables are being pinched from Scotland straight to England, and he thinks it just goes one way.
But it's not even like government. It's not even government project, right? It's a private project.
Yeah.
So it's not, he doesn't even own it. He doesn't. This is one of the problems in nationalists. They try and say this is our stuff that you're stealing, that these other people are stealing. Well, first of all, we're all the same because we're all in the UK. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, it's not your stuff anyway, because it belongs to some energy company. And are you getting tax from it? Maybe you're getting tax. Maybe they're making money out of it selling. You're never happy because 1 minute is you stealing the stuff, and then I thought you said you wanted to sell this to England and make money.
Well, there's plenty of times that and England, by the way, I like to say to Kenny, England have renewables as well. It's not just Scotland. England do have renewables, and it does go both ways. If Scotland is struggling at a certain time, extra will come from England. But we're
seeing it actually coming from France, because France decided not to get rid of its nuclear power, and so it's continuous baseload. So when our renewables are not working, which of course they don't all the time, then we're importing energy from France. Great, well done, everyone. Right, okay. I mean, these people are so irrelevant now. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, it's just, and we've heard Sweeney say, disinformation is the biggest threat to Scotland, to the UK and to Scotland. Disinformation, and yet we get Scottish ministers or we get ex-Scottish ministers making up stories like that just to have a go, just to have a go at it.
It's a cult. I put it on Twitter. It's a cult of grievance, moaning and deflection.
Maybe you should get a knock on the door by the Mr. Plod and say, "Look, you're spreading hate across across the internet. Come and have a word with us."
Nonsense, absolute nonsense. Okay, next up, Mary is going to do her Zoomer. What have you got for us?
Well, I'm staying on a financial theme, actually. My Zoomer of the week is Scotland's Finance Minister, Shona Robinson, who, as well as her implausible blaming the UK for having to fund Scotland's black hole of £22 billion this year, but on top of that, today she announced emergency spending controls will now be introduced with immediate effect because they can't afford to pay the pay rises, basically, that they're promising everyone. But here's what really gets me. Is that every report and news article that I've read in the past few days about Scotland's financial figures and situation and everything always has Shona Robinson or some other nationalist financial nitwit parroting the line, the Scottish government balances its budget every year. right? The Scottish government. Well, does it really? So balancing a budget is generally understood to mean that your expenditure matches your income. Like,
Yes.
for example, I make £88 billion and I spend £88 billion. Not, I make £88 billion and I spend £110 billion. But no matter how much we spend, the UK will make up the balance. That is not balancing a budget. Taking a £22 billion gift. Anyone can balance a budget if you know that whatever your difference, however much your expenses are more than your income, that someone's going to give you, the shortfall, and then you say, but we're balancing our budget. It's absolute nonsense. Now, these people are dangerous idiots. Shona Robinson shouldn't be allowed anywhere near a set of accounts, never mind the accounts for a country like Scotland. And she and her cronies don't have any idea what financial terms even mean, never mind how to use them. And that is why Shona Robinson is my Zummer of the week.
Yeah, she's got. I'm looking up in Wikipedia right now. She gained a Master of Arts in Social Science.
Woohoo.
And then she got a postgraduate certificate in community education.
Well, there you go.
So that puts her in charge of what was it?
The country's accounts.
88 billion budget?
No, well, they spent 110 billion.
Oh, 110 billion.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And there's a shortfall of over 10%. And then the Scottish government balances its accounts.
Jesus. Right.
They shouldn't even be. I think I might just report them actually for inaccurate information.
Right, Mark. You get to decide. The 3 nominations were yours is Kenny McCaskill, mine was Scottish Parliament,
and mine is Shona Robinson.
And Shona Robinson.
Well, I'm going to take mine out of it.
Oh, don't do that. Yours should be treated equally.
Yeah. But I'm gonna put mine out of it, and I think it's between you two. Shona Robinson. Yeah, the financial thing we hear that quite a lot, don't we? It comes up every year, and it comes up every time they mention finances, that we balance the books. So and it is one, but the Scottish one, it just makes me cringe when I see things like that from from the Scottish government. When people read that and think, what's going on?
Actual Scots can't read it, or
no one can read it.
That's nonsense.
Even you can't just read it.
Yeah, and people internationally will look at that and go, what's that? Is that how they speak now? Is that the way they speak?
How many people were paid? How many meetings and much money was spent on that? That's what I'd like to know. I actually should have some information on it.
That's what I said. They shouldn't be allowed to spend the money.
And say, how much did you spend on this guff? Because spending £1 on it was too much.
So is that the winner, Mark?
So I'm going to have to go. I don't want to, but I'm going to have to go with Mark.
Yay.
The winner.
Yes.
Well, it's true Zoomerism, I have to say.
Yeah. Utter nonsense. Let's not go on about that anymore.
No, right.
Okay, right. Well, great. Thank you very much, all of you, it's great to have you all of you with us on the show every week on Scotland's #1 Politics Chat. We will see you same time, same place next Wednesday. Thought for the week is, to paraphrase Mr. Churchill, now is not the end. I can't do the voice, but it's perhaps the beginning of the end. It's a bit shortened version from the main one. Anyway, we will continue to fight them on the beaches or wherever. Prefer not to fight people on the beaches. But just lie on the beach, to be honest. But anyway, we'll fight them, nationalists, wherever we can.
Peacefully, Mark. Peacefully.
Yes. No riots. We'll fight them through debate. And if they want to close our discussion down, because that's what they want to do. All right. Thank you very much, all of you, for being with us. Thank you, Mark, for being with us tonight. Thank you, Mary, for co-hosting too. We will see you all again next week. So thank you, everyone, for watching. And good to be back. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone else.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your comments.
Good night.
Take care.